Thank you, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, Chapter 1, Text 23. Anyani cheha dvija deva de Anyani cheha dvija deva deve Kartani nayatanani Vishnu Pratyanga mukyankita mandirani Yaddarshanat Krishnam anusmaranti.
There are also many other temples of various forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, established by great sages and demigods. These temples were marked with the chief emblems of the Lord, and they reminded one always of the original personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna.
Text 24. Tatastva ativrajya surastram riddham soviramatsyana kurujangalamscha kalena tavad yamunam upetya tatroddavam bhagavatam dadadarsha.
Thereafter, he passed through very wealthy provinces like Surat, Saurivira, and Matsya, and through western India, known as Kurujangala. At last, he reached the bank of the Yamuna, where he happened to meet Uddhava, the great devotee of Lord Krishna.
Text 25. Savasudevanucharam prashantam brihaspate prak tanayam pratitam alingya gadam pranayena bhadram swanam aprachad bhagavata prajanam.
Then, due to his great love and feeling, Vidura embraced him, Uddhava, who was a constant companion of Lord Krishna and formerly a great student of Brahaspati's. Vidura then asked him for news of the family of Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead.
Text 26. Kachit Purano Purusho Swanabhya Padmanu Prityeha Kilavatino Asata Urvyad Kushalam Vidaya Kritakshano Kushalam Suragehe.
Please tell me whether the original personality of Godhead, who incarnated themselves at the request of Brahma, who is born out of the lotus flower from the Lord, and who have increased the prosperity of the world by elevating everyone, and are doing well in the house of Surasena.
Text 27. Kachit Kurunam Paramasurano Bhamasa Ashte Sukham Anga Sorihi Yovai Swashranam Pitrava Dadati Varan Vadanyo Bharatarpanena.
Please tell me whether the best friend of the Kurus, our brother-in-law Vasudev, is doing well. He is very munificent. He is like a father to his sisters, and he is always pleasing to his wives.
Text 28. Kachitvarotha dipatir yudunam pradyumna ashte sukham anga viraha yam rukmini bhagavato abhilebe aradhya vipran smaram adi sarge.
O Uddhava, please tell me, how is Pradyumna, the commander-in-chief of the Yadus, who was Cupid in a former life? Rukmini bore him as her son from Lord Krishna by the grace of Brahmanas whom she pleased.
Text 29. Kachit sukham satvata vrishni bhoja Darshahakanam adipasa aste Yam chincha chatapatra netro dipashanasham pariritya durat.
O my friend, tell me whether Ugrasena, the king of the Sattvatas, Vrishnis, Bhojas, and Darsarahas, is now doing well. He went far away from his kingdom, leaving aside all hopes of his royal throne. But Lord Krishna again installed him.
Text 30. Kachitare somya sutasa driksha ashte grani ratinam sadhu sambha asutayam jambavati vratatya devam guham yo ambikaya drito grihe.
O gentle one, does Samba fare well? He exactly resembles the son of the personality of Godhead. In a previous birth, he was born as a Kartikya in the womb of the wife of Lord Shiva. And now he has been born in the womb of Jambavati, the most enriched wife of Krishna.
Text 31. Shemam sakachit yuyudhana ashte ya palgunal labdha danurahasya lebe anja sadokshaja sevayava gatim tadiyam yatibhi duratam.
O Uddhava, does Yuyudhana fare well? He learned the intricacies of the military art from Arjun and attained the transcendental destination, which is very difficult to reach even for the great renouncers.
Text 32. Kachit Buddha swasti anamiva ashte swafalka putro bhagavata prapannaha ya Krishna padankito margapam shushva achistata prema vibhina daryaha.
Please tell me whether Akrura, the son of Swapahalka, is doing well. He is a faultless soul surrendered unto the personality of Godhead. He once lost his mental equilibrium due to his ecstasy of transcendental love and fell down on the dust of a road which was marked with footprints of Lord Krishna.
Text 33. Kachit Shivam Devaka Bhojaputraya Vishnu Prajaya Iva Deva Matuhu Yavai Swagarbhena Dadara Devam Trayi Yatha Yagna Vitanam Artham.
As the Vedas are the reservoir of sacrificial purposes, so the daughter of King Devaka Bhoja conceived the Supreme Personality of Godhead in her womb, as did the mother of the demigods. Is she, Devaki, doing well?
Text 34. Apishvit Ashte Bhagavan Sukham Vo Yasatvatam Kama Dugo Aniruddha Yam Amananti Sma Ishabda Yonim Manomayam Shatva Turiya Tattvam.
May I inquire whether Aniruddha is doing well? He is the fulfiller of all the desires of the pure devotees and has been considered from yore to be the cause of the Rig Veda, the creator of the mind and the fourth plenary expansion of Vishnu.
Text 35. Apishvidanye Chanijatam Apishvidanye Chanijatma Daivam Ananya Vritya Samanuvrataye Ridika Satyatmaja Charudeshna Gudadaya Swasti Charanti Somya.
O Sobhavan, others such as Ridika, Charudesana, Gada, and the son of Satyabhama, who accept Lord Sri Krishna as the soul of the self and thus follow his path without deviation, are they well?
Text 36. अपि स्वदर्भ्यं विजयाच्युताभ्यं धर्मेण धर्मः परिपतिसेतुम् दुर्योधनात्तप्यत सभायं साम्राज्यलक्ष्म्या विजयानुवृत्त्या.
Also, let me inquire whether Maharaj Yudhishthir is now maintaining the kingdom according to religious principles and with respect for the path of religion. Formerly, Duryodhana was burning with envy because Yudhishthir was being protected by the arms of Krishna and Arjuna as if they were his own arms.
Text 37. Kim va kritakeshva agam atyamasi bhimo ahivad dirghatamam vyamunchat yashyangri patam rana burna sehe margam gadayas charato vichitram.
Please tell me whether the unconquerable Bhima, who is like a cobra, has released his long-cherished anger upon the sinners. The field of battle could not tolerate even the wonderful playing of his club when he stepped on the path.
Text 38. Kachit yashodaratay yutapanam gandivadano danvo paraterir aste alakshito yach charakuta guddo maya kirato girishas tutosha.
Please tell me whether Arjuna, whose bow bears the name Gandiva and who is always famous amongst the chariot warriors for vanquishing his enemies, is doing well. He once satisfied Lord Shiva by covering him with arrows when Shiva came as an unidentified false hunter.
Text 39. Yama utashvit tanayo prithaya parthe rito pakshmabhir akshiniva remata udaya mrideswariktam parat suparnav iva vrajri vaktrat.
Are the twin brothers who are protected by their brothers doing well? Just as the eye is always protected by the eyelid, they are protected by the sons of Pritha, who snatched back their rightful kingdom from the hands of their enemy Duryodhan, just as Garuda snatched nectar from the mouth of Indra, the thunderbolt carrier.
Text 40. Aho prithapi driyate arbakarte rajarshi varyena vinapitena yastvam eka viro adiratho vijige tanu dvitiya kukubhas chatashraha.
O my lord, is Pritha still living? She lived only for the sake of her fatherless children. Otherwise, it was impossible for her to live without King Pandu, who was the greatest commander and who alone conquered the 4 directions simply with the help of a second bow.
Text 41. Somyanusochetam adapatantam bratre paretaya vidudruhe yaha niryapito yena surat swapurya aham swaputran samanuvratena.
O gentle one, I simply lament for him, Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his brother after death. By him I was driven out of my own house, although I am his sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own sons.
Text 42. So aham harer mritya vidombanena drisho nirnam chalayato vidantuhu nanya palaksyam padavim prasadach charami pashyan gata vishmayo atra.
I am not astonished at this, having traveled all over the world without being seen by others. The activities of the personality of Godhead, which are like those of a man in this mortal world, are bewildering to others. But I know of his greatness by his grace, and thus I am happy in all respects.
Text 43. Nunam nipanam tri madopatanam mahim mahus chalayatam cham chamubi vadat prapanati jihirsayesho api upakshatagam bhagavan kurunam.
Despite his being the Lord and being always willing to relieve the distress of sufferers, he, Krishna, refrained from killing the Kurus. Although they committed all sorts of sins, and although he saw other kings constantly agitating the earth by their strong military movements carried out under the dictation of three kinds of false pride.
Text 44. Ajasya janmat patha nasanaya karmani akartur grahanaya pumsam nanva anyathako arahati deha gyogam parogunanam utakarma tantram.
The appearance of the Lord is manifested for the annihilation of the upstarts. His activities are transcendental and are enacted for the understanding of all persons. Otherwise, since the Lord is transcendental to all material modes, what purpose could he serve by coming to earth?
Text 45. Tasya prapannakhila lokapanam ashwatitanam anushashane swa arthaya jatasya yaduswa ajasya vartam sakhe kirtaya tirtha kirtehe.
O my friend, please, therefore, chant the glories of the Lord, who is meant to be glorified in the places of pilgrimage. He is unborn, and yet he appears by his causeless mercy upon the surrendered rulers of all parts of the universe. Only for their interest did he appear in the family of his unalloyed devotees, the Yadus.
Thus
Hare
ends
Krishna.
Bhakti Vedanta purport of the third canto, first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Question by Vidura. Hare Krishna,
Hare
dear
Krishna.
devotees, please forgive us for any mistakes. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Amangi Mataji and Sham Govinda Prabhu, for the wonderful recitation, both in Sanskrit and English. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, everyone. My name is Krishna Govinda Das. I'm just going to share the page to you. Okay, just let me know if you can see that, okay?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Okay. I just quickly recite today, just to let you know, okay, just want to make sure we've got the right page. Okay, I think I've lost it. Okay, let me just quickly get another page up. It's Canto 3. Yep, and then it's chapter 1, questions by Vidura, and it's verses 38, 39, 40, and 41 today. Okay, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Narayam Namaskipcham Naram Chaiva Narotanam, Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraya, Nastashu Bhadrishu Nitya Bhagavate Sevaya, Bhagavatam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki. Hare Krishna once again. Thank you very much for joining in today for the chat class on 29th of September 2024. Today we're reading from Canto 3, The Status Quo, Chapter 1, Questions by Vidura. The verses today are 38, 39, 40, and 41. So starting with verse 38. Gachet Yashoda Rata Yutapanam Gandhi Vadano Vaparatyari Aste Alakshito Yachak Charagato Gudo Maya Karoto Kirishastatosa. Translation. Please tell me whether Arjuna, whose bow bears the name Gandiva and who is always famous amongst the chariot warriors for vanquishing his enemies, is doing well. He once satisfied Lord Shiva by covering him with arrows when Shiva came as an unidentified false hunter. Prabhupada, by his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Shiva tested Arjuna's strength by picking quarrel with him over a hunted boar. He confronted Arjuna in the false dress of a hunter, and Arjuna covered him with arrows until Lord Shiva was satisfied with Arjuna's fighting. He offered Arjuna the Pashupati weapon and blessed him. Here Vidura inquired about the great warrior's well-being. So there are a few other verses I'll be reading. So just to start off, I'll recite the invocation prayers. Please do join in. Om Agyana Timarandasya Jnana Jana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Tatati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Ladita Shivishakamitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Satya Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Te Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pujayane Nirvishesha Sanyavade Pashyatya Desatayane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So now Vidura is actually inquiring from Uddhava about the pastimes of, or the background behind the Pandavas, and particularly Arjuna. He's very fond of Arjuna, and he mentions about Gandiva. And at the same time, he mentions about his sort of confrontation with Lord Shiva. And there was an incident when, just during the time when the Pandavas were in exile, they knew that war was going to be inevitable, even though they tried to see if they could get their sort of destined acquisition of their land again and their properties and all their assets. But Duryodhana flatly refused, and they knew that the war was going to be inevitable. So in order to prepare himself, Arjuna had to try and please Lord Shiva by getting certain weapons from Lord Shiva. So just for time, I'm just going to read the story, how Arjuna had sort of pacified Lord Shiva. So within the Mount Indrakila, in the mighty Himalayas, was a tranquil abode to many sages, conducted prayers and performed severe penances of the gods. One day the sages saw a stranger walking towards their abode. They noticed that even though the stranger was wearing saffron clothes, he looked nothing like one. He was tall, well-built, and wearing weapons. On seeing the golden hilt of the sword, they recognized the stranger to be the Pandava prince Arjuna. One of the sages whispered, the Pandavas were banished from their kingdom after losing a game of dice with Duryodhana. But what is Prince Arjuna doing here? So Arjuna was walking silently to a secluded spot, sat down to make a lingam from mud to perform severe penances to Lord Shiva. He didn't stop his penance for anything. After a few months, the earth around him was unable to bear the heat of his penance and started emanating black smoke around him. The smoke spread throughout Mount Indrakila, and the sages fled to Mount Kailash. They approached Lord Shiva, who was sitting beside Goddess Parvati, and pleaded to intervene. Lord Shiva smiled and replied, please go back to Mount Indrakila. I will resolve your problem. Okay, I'm just going to skip a few paragraphs. Lord Shiva told about his plans to test Arjuna. He disguised himself as a Kirata chief. Kirata is a clan of mountain dwellers, and asked Goddess Parvati and some of his followers to dress up as Kirata women. When they were nearing Mount Indrakila, Goddess Parvati pointed at a wild boar at some distance and said, that does not look like an ordinary boar. Lord Shiva looked at it and said, you are right, that looks like an asura, Mukha. He seems to be heading towards the sages to disrupt their prayers. Lord Shiva took and aimed the demon with his bow and arrow, but the demon sensed the presence of Lord Shiva and fled. Lord Shiva chased him to the sages' abode, and as soon as the sages saw the boar charging towards them, they started running, screaming for help. Mukha ran to the spot where Arjuna was performing his penance. Arjuna sensed the boar's presence and opened his eyes. He took up his bow and arrow to kill it. When Lord Shiva also reached the spot, he said, stop! That is my prey, you cannot kill it. Arjuna was not able to recognize Lord Shiva in disguise and replied, I will not put down my bow. If you are a true hunter, take your aim and kill it. Both shot their arrows at the boar. As soon as the arrows pierced, the animal resumed its original demonic self and died. The Kirata woman, watching the demon fall down to his death, started dancing and celebrating. But it was not clear who had struck the boar first. So once again, they started a duel between the Kirata chief and Arjuna. Soon arrows started flying between Arjuna and Lord Shiva. They hurled their best arrows at each other, but neither of them was hurt. Suddenly Arjuna realized that his quivers of arrows was over. Lord Shiva smiled at him and offered, you can borrow some arrows from me. Hearing this, the Kirata woman started mocking Arjuna. Arjuna angrily threw his bow at the hunter, who caught it, tore the strings and flung it away. Not able to control his anger, Arjuna took a sword and charged him with all his might. The sword dissolved into flowers as it struck the hunter. Everyone was surprised to see the miracle, and the Kirata woman cheered their chief. Refusing to lose, Arjuna picked up a tree with his bare hands and hurled it at the hunter, who dodged it easily. And, unable to concede defeat, he decided to pray to Lord Shiva for strength. He sat down in front of the lingam and started chanting Om Namah Shivaya, placed a garland on the lingam. Soon he felt strength infuse his body. Happy that his prayers had been heard, turned towards the Kirata hunter and said, Lord Shiva had blessed me with strength. Come, let's see who wins now. But as he saw, the lingam was lying around the hunter's neck. When Arjuna realized that Kirata chief was none other than Lord Shiva in disguise, he bowed in front of him and said, please pardon me, O Lord. I didn't know who I was fighting. The Lord Shiva replied, O valiant prince, you have appeased me with your devotion and granted this Pashupata, the blessed arrow, to aid you in your war. Of course, in the Mahabharata war, when it took place, Arjuna used his Pashupati arrow to defeat Karna. So that's the story of how Arjuna received this celestial weapon, the celestial arrow, Pushpati, and which was actually used to defeat Karna. Karna was his own brother. Later on, I'm going to ask you some questions about the 5 Pandavas, including Karna, and who their respective demigod fathers are. So please be ready. Carry on to the next verse. Verse 39. Yamavatas vetanayu prataya pate vrito pakshambir akshiniva mimato udaya midesvariktam Bharatsuparna Vivava Shivakrat Vaktrat. Translation: are the twin brothers who are protected by their brothers doing well? Just as the eye is always protected by the eyelid, they are protected by the sons of Pritha. who snatched back their rightful kingdom from the hands of their enemy Duryodhana, just as Garuda snatched nectar from the mouth of Indra, the thunderbolt carrier. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Indra, the king of heaven, carries a thunderbolt in his hand and is very strong. Yet Garuda, the carrier of the Lord Vishnu, was able to snatch nectar from his mouth. Similarly, Duryodhana was as strong as the king of heaven, and still the sons of Pritha, the Pandavas, were able to snatch away the kingdom from Duryodhana. But the Garuda and the Parthas are Lord, and thus it was possible for them to face such strong enemies. Vidura's inquiry was about the youngest brother of the Pandavas, namely Nakula and Sahadev. These twin brothers were sons of Madri, the stepmother of the other Pandavas. But although they were stepbrothers, because Kunti took charge of them after the departure of Madri with her husband Maharaj Pandu, Nakula and Sahadev were good as the other three Pandavas, namely Yudhishthira, Bhima, and Arjuna. The five brothers are known as the world as regular brothers. The three elder Pandavas took care of the younger brothers, just as the eyelids take care of the eye. Vidura was anxious to know whether, after winning back their own kingdom from the hands of Duryodhana, the younger brothers were still happily under the care of the elder brothers. So I was just going to ask a question to everyone who's listening. Can anybody name me the respective demigods who gave the benediction or gave the mercy to Madri and to Queen Kunti to give birth to their children? Say, for instance, Karna. Who is the demigod father of Karna?
Sun god.
Yep, Devashwan. Thank you. And what about for Yudhishthira?
Dharmaraj.
Dharmaraja.
Dharmaraj, well done. And for Arjuna?
Indra.
Okay, good. And for Bhima?
Vayu.
Yes, Vayu. Thank you. And for Nakula and Sahadev?
Ashwini Kumaras.
Yes, very good. Thank you. All
Thank
of you are sort of actually absorbing all the wonderful pastimes and leaders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is really nice. In fact, actually, earlier on, I should have mentioned my Asceta blessings of my spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Swami, and also to Srila Prabhupada and all the Vaishnavas listening on this, so I may be able to speak on the wonderful glories of the pastimes of Shishi, Radha, and Krishna. And nicely, all of you have been able to tell me all those answers. So does anybody know the story of how Draupadi ended up marrying the five Pandavas? So during the arena, when Draupadi was actually going to be given away, there was obviously a contest to see who could shoot the eye of the fish by looking at the reflection through the pool in the water. And there was a circular wheel which was rotating at the same time. And it was only Arjuna who was able to perform that shot. Even Karna tried, but through Krishna's mercy, he missed the eye of the fish. But when they returned back to the place where they live in, what was Kunti Devi doing? She was busy cleaning something, and then Arjuna said, "Look, we have something for you." And then Kunti Devi, in her own wisdom, would always say to share everything out to their sons equally. And that's exactly what happened. When she turned around, they found out they actually, had a new daughter-in-law, Draupadi, and she was considered to be so beautiful, very tall as well. And her other name is also known as Krishna from the pastimes, as later on when Krishna comes to protect her from being destroyed by all the Kuru dynasty. So her other name for Draupadi is also Krishna. So I'm just going to read this to you. I think that was the wrong one. Yeah. When this is after they won Draupadi, that's Arjuna. When the Pandavas entered the Partha's house, they called out to Queen Kunti, "Mother, come and see what they have collected today." Kunti was inside the house, and without seeing her son, she said, "Whatever you brought today shall be shared equally among you." The next moment she saw Draupadi and exclaimed, "Oh, I have spoken too soon." They then informed of the events that had taken place that day. She took the daughter of Drupada by the hand and approached Yudhishthira. The daughter of King Drupada has been given to me as the alms collected for the day. In ignorance, I've spoken the words, share equally what you have obtained. O best among the Kuru race, tell me how my words will not prove false. Thus addressed by his mother, Yudhishthira reflected for a moment and then ordered Arjuna, today you have won Draupadi. It is proper, therefore, that you marry her. Ignite the sacrificial fire and wed her according to the Vedic rites. Hearing the order of his elder brother, Arjuna declined. We do not want to take part in any sinful activities. You are the elders. According to the Vedic injunctions, the older brother must be married first. Once you are married, then the rest of us will marry according to our birth. We therefore wait your decision after due deliberation. So then it goes on. Draupadi also looked upon the Pandavas with affection, glances that captivated their hearts. Understanding that was what was in their minds, just a fear and division decided, the beautiful Draupadi shall be common wife. With these words, all the brothers' faces blossomed like lotus flowers. So then they carried out the Swayamvara assembly at Draupadi's palace, and Lord Krishna and Balaram had followed them. So that shows you that even though Arjuna had actually won by the competition of the Draupadi's hand, but due to Queen Kunti saying to Sharon about sharing Draupadi, although she didn't know it was her daughter-in-law, to share it out equally, out of respect, they all honored her words as well. So it's amazing how during those times they were very accustomed to listening to their parents. Whatever they say, they would actually follow the instructions, except for in the case of Duryodhana. Sometimes he was very blind and oblivious to what was happening, and his father, King Dhritarashtra, was blind by birth, blind by also by nature, was so affectionate towards his son that he would just listen to his son, despite heeding the advice from Vidura and heeding the good advice from Krishna, heeding the good advice from Bhishma Devi. But for some reason, due to ignorance, due to envy, due to false ego, he sort of ignored them, ignored their instructions, disobeyed them, and took the side of his own son, who was also blind by nature because of his father's association. Okay. So it so happened that Pandu, while they were actually traveling, Pandu accidentally shot an arrow to a deer that was mating, and it so happened this particular deer was actually a sage and had taken the form of a deer just to be very playful with his wife. But Pandu, who did not realize this, shot the deer and killed the wife, the female deer. And the king was the sage was very angry, and he cursed Pandu to say that, if you ever make love to your wife, then you will die instantly as well. So he felt very ashamed, and he decided to relinquish his position as a king and go into the forest. But it so happened that there was an affectionate desire to make love with Madhuri, and as soon as he touched her, he sort of was about to die, and while he died, Madhuri was also wanted to go into the pyre as well, and so did Kunti Devi as well. And I'll explain that in the next few verses. The reason why they wanted to take the dine with their king as well, because it was a practice in those days when a noble king of good nature, or even a husband, had been killed. The wives would also honor their husband as well and take on a funeral pyre. Verse 40. Aho patape driyate vibhakate ajarishi varyena vinapitena yastraika virodirato vigye dhanu dvidya kakobhaschatashraha. Translation: O my Lord, is Prita still living? She lived only for the sake of her fatherless children. Otherwise, it was impossible for her to live without King Pandu, who was the greatest commander and alone conquered the 4 directions, simply with the help of a second bow. Purport: a faithful wife cannot live without her lord, her husband, and therefore all widows used to voluntarily embrace the burning fire which consumed the dead husband. The system was very common in India because all the wives were chaste and faithful to their husbands. Later on, with the advent of the age of Kali, the wives gradually began to be less adherent to their husbands, and the voluntary embrace of the fire by the widows became a thing of the past. Very recently, the system was abolished, since the voluntary system had become a forceful social custom. When Maharaj Pandhu died, both his wives, namely Kunti and Madri, were prepared to embrace the fire, but Madri requested Kunti to live for the sake of the younger children, the 5 Pandavas. This was agreed upon by Kunti at the reiterated request of Vyasadeva. In spite of a great bereavement, Kunti decided to leave, not to enjoy life in the absence of a husband. In the absence of a husband, but only to give protection to the children. This incident is referred to here by Vidura because he knew all the facts about his sister-in-law Kunti Devi. It is understood that Maharaj Pandhu was a great warrior and that he alone, with the help of a bow and arrow, could conquer the world's 4 directions. In the absence of such a husband, it was almost impossible for Kunti to live on even as a widow, but she had to do it for the sake of 5 children. Okay, so this is another wonderful verse explaining the respect a wife had towards her husband. The husband, by noble nature, he was considered to be adhering to all the rules and regulations as laid out by the law, as laid out by the Brahminical qualities of a Brahmana, and as a Kshatriya as well. He followed those rules as well. And when they actually died, they would also embrace the funeral pyre along with their husbands. But in this case, Madri decided that no, or she suggested that Kunti, you stay on because you could take care of the 5 Pandavas, they have great affection towards you as well. So for that reason, Kunti decided to stay on because she knew that what is the purpose of a life without her husband? But it's also seen within the human nature that the mother is more sort of respectful towards her children, they have more affection towards her children, they're able to tolerate certain activities of the children. They're always wanting to ensure that they're well fed, well taken care of, and their education and their progress in their both material and spiritual life. Sometimes for the husbands or the fathers, obviously they're doing their duty as a husband and as a father as well. But the real quality comes from the mother who's taken care of having the children and their first priority over and above themselves. So that's why Kunti Devi decided to stay. She could take care of the children as well, especially during a difficult situation, because she knew the cousins were very envious of the children and they would do anything to possibly harm them. And she didn't want to show that sort of, I suppose, situation to be fallen on her head. She knew that if she wasn't there to take care of them, anything could happen to her children and they could end up being killed as well at the hands of their own cousins, the Kurus. So I know down here she's referring to Prita. Prita is queen. Who is Prita referring to? Yeah. Kunti. Good. And in the Bhagavad Gita, when you read it, Krishna sometimes mentions Partha. Who is Partha? Is he referring to? Arjuna. And sometimes he mentions Prithu. Who's Prithu referring to? Krishna referring to? Prithu is the Pandu. So Partha is Arjuna and Pritha is Kunti Devi. So sometimes when you say Osana Partha, that's referring to Osana Prithu, sorry, that's referring to these Pandu king, son of Pandu, which is Arjuna, and sometimes it refers to Partha, which is referred to Arjuna. So I thought I'd let you know that as well. So here we know the famous story of Sati Devi, the first wife of Now, does anybody know why Sati Devi took the funeral pyre?
Is it, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, is it because Daksha, Shiva was insulted by Daksha?
No, the other way around.
Is it?
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. Yeah, Shiva. But although Shiva didn't find any insult itself, but it was Shiva's
Yeah,
wife, Sati, who
felt
felt
it.
insulted.
Yeah.
Shiva was oblivious to any sort of conditioning of what her father-in-law had said. Thank you very much. Was that Kanta Devi?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you. So I'll just
Thank you.
quickly ask Kishori Mataji on the, is there a kirtan today? A bhajan today? Does anybody
Yes.
know?
Yes, Prabhuji, there is
Oh,
bhajan.
there is. Okay, 7:40, 8:40, yeah?
Yes, please, Prabhuji. Hare
Okay,
Krishna.
yeah. Thank you.
She's the head, no?
Has he had nothing?
I just asked somebody to mute themselves. I'm not sure who it is. Going to search. Okay. Harivadan. Thank you. I was going to say the story of Sati Devi. If I could find it. Okay, here it is. From verse 24. So in fact, it's actually from chapter 4. So later on, you'll be reading this particular verse. So it's actually between Vidura and Maitreya again. Maitreya, the sage, told Vidura, annihilator of enemies, while thus speaking to her father in the arena of sacrifice, Sati sat down on the ground and faced north. Dressed in saffron garments, she sanctified herself with water and closed her eyes to absorb herself in the process of mystic yoga. First of all, she sat in the required sitting posture. Then she carried the life air upwards and placed it in the position of equilibrium near the navel. Then she raised the life air mixed with intelligence to the heart, and then gradually towards the pulmonary passage, from there to between her eyebrows. Thus, in order to give up her body, which had been so respectfully and affectionately seated on the lap of Lord Shiva, was worshipped by the great sages and saints, Sati, due to anger towards her father, began to meditate on the fiery air within the body. Sati concentrated all her meditation on the holy lotus feet of her husband, Lord Shiva, who is the supreme spiritual master of all the world. Thus she became completely cleansed of all the taints of sin and quit her body in a blazing fire by meditation in the fiery elements. When Sati annihilated her body in anger, there was a tumultuous roar all over the universe. Why had Sati, the wife of the most respectable demigod, Lord Shiva, quit her body in such a manner? It was astonishing that Daksha, who was a Prajapati, the maintainer of all living entities, was still so disrespectful to his own daughter Sati, was not only chaste, but was also a great soul, that she gave up her body because of his neglect. So although Sati, she gave up her own body due to the insult, her father, Daksha, was a Prajapati, the maintainer of all living entities, towards her dear husband, Lord Shiva. She took it upon herself that she was not worthy to hear such horrible, harsh words by her own father. Also ignored her when he was going to be performing the second yajna itself. And for this reason, Sati said, okay, I'm going to give up my life. And that's where the word of when a wife takes up the funeral pyre along with her husband, the word Sati came in, just for some historical facts itself. So from the custom, the tradition, the last Sati that took place in India was in 1829. And it was actually abolished by the Bengal provisional governor at that time, along with Raja Rama Mohan Roy and William Bentinck, who was the Governor General of India. So 1829 was considered to be the last time officially when a wife took on the funeral pyre along with her husband. But then what had happened, the Portuguese and the French also, the British colony, Sir Charles Napier ordered to hang by death any priest who actually carries out the last rites for the wife to participate in this sati as well. So they abolished this sati by also persecuting the priest who was also participating in this ritual itself. So now, does anybody know anybody else who actually took on the funeral pyre along with their devoted husbands? It's quite sad, actually, this is. Okay, just for time. I'll read this to you. If I can find it. So many pages.
Was Madhuri?
Madhuri was, which we mentioned, but somebody later on from the Srimad Bhagavatam.
King
Okay.
Pritu's wife.
Yeah, so Pritu's wife was Madhuri, but Kunti Devi stayed on. So I'm just going to read from Canto 11, chapter 31, verse 39. Okay, this is really sad. Tormented by separation from the Lord, this is referring to Krishna. His parents gave up their lives at that very spot. By dear Parikshit, the wives of the Yadavas then climbed into the funeral pyres, embracing their dead husbands. This was the wives. So the wives of Lord Balaram also entered the fire and embraced his body. So can you imagine Lord Balaram, the supreme personality of Godhead, and his wives entered when Lord Balaram took the pasture to leave the earthly planets to go back to the spiritual abode. And Vasudev's wives entered his fire and embraced his body. The daughters-in-laws of Lord Hari entered the funeral fires of their respective husbands, headed by Pradyumna, and Rukmini and the other wives of Lord Krishna, whose heart was completely absorbed in him, entered his fire. This made me, shed a tear. Can you imagine Rukmini giving up her life? Of course, it's an eternal pastime, something that us material mortals cannot understand, but it's part of the Leela. When Lord Krishna left this particular planet, his earthly pastime to go back to the spiritual abode where he always is residing. This particular incidents happened where all the wives of the Yadavas also took the funeral pyre along with their husbands. Arjuna felt great distress over separation from Lord Krishna, his dearest friend, but he consoled himself by remembering the transcendental words the Lord had sung to him. So it just shows you exactly the situation when Lord Krishna had left. The wives could not, live a second more without Krishna. So they all decided to leave their own lives, their own family, and take on their respective duty as the custom of sati, and also took the funeral pyre along with their beloved husbands, Krishna. If you can imagine, 18,000 wives all took to the funeral pyres as well. So this is a curse by who? To Krishna, to the Yadava dynasty. Do you know who cursed the Yadava dynasty, that the dynasty will be annihilated?
Yes, Gandhari, wife of Dhritarashtra.
Yes. Can you explain a bit more, Samudra?
Yeah,
Mataji?
so she said that because you finished my whole bunch, I curse you that your whole bunch will come. And then what happened was the whole sea took over, the whole Dwarka kind of sank. That's why half the Dwarka is under the sea because of her curse. And everyone passed away with that curse.
Yeah, it is very sad actually. So Gandhari, when Krishna actually, after the battle of Kurukshetra, out of respect, Krishna went to see Gandhari to get her blessings so he could go back to Dwarka. But instead of getting the blessings of Gandhari, she cursed him and blasphemed him and said that you could have prevented this war. You let my sons die. You made us suffer so much, and the anguish that we're feeling, you will also feel the same anguish. So she cursed Krishna. And Krishna tried to explain that, my dear mother, I tried so many times to try and stop this war from happening, but your son, he objected to every time we tried to make a peace treaty. So she was still very disappointed and said, I'll curse you and curse the Yadava dynasty. They will all come to the end of their lives as well. So Krishna, if he did touch her feet, she knew she would have to retract her curse. So he decided not to touch her feet at all and decided to leave at that time. But of course, it's part of the Leela. So when the end of the that particular yuga, was it Satyajita Dwapar Yuga, at the end of Dwapar Yuga, then the age of Kali took place. Okay, Was there any comments or questions? There is one more. I'll quickly read the last verse. Verse 41. Samyanu Shochetamada Patandam Patre Paretriya Viduriye Yaha Niyapito Yena Surit Svapuriya Aham Svaputrans Amun Vratina. Translation. O gentleman, I simply lament for him, Dhritarashtra, rebelled against his brother, and after death, by him I was driven out of my own house. Although I am sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own sons. So just quickly read this. Vidura did not ask about the welfare of his elder brother, because there was no chance of his well-being, only news of his gliding down to hell. Vidura was a sincere well-wisher for Dhritarashtra, and he had thought about him in the corner of his heart, lamented that Dhritarashtra could rebel against the sons of his dead brother Pandu, and that he could drive him, Vidura, out of his own house on the dictation of his crooked sons. In spite of these actions, Vidura never became an enemy of Dhritarashtra, but continued to be his well-wisher. And on the last stage of Dhritarashtra's life, it was Vidura only who proved to be his real friend. Such is the behavior of Vaishnava like Vidura. He desires all good, even for his enemies. And that is the qualities that we should all imbibe, that we have no envy, no animosity towards anybody else. We're equal to both friends and enemies alike. You know, within happiness, distress, victory or defeat, we see everybody equally. We don't try and compete with anybody at all. Vidura was a great example. And who was Vidura in his previous life? He was none other than Yamaraj, but he was cursed by a king or a sage. I think it was a king, actually. Oh, no. He was cursed by Manduka Muni for some particular reason, another Leela. And the Yamaraj, it took on the form of a Shudra king, and in this case, that was Vidura. Vidura was considered to be the brother of Bhishma Dev, but Bhishma Dev treated him equally, considered to be the son of Shantanu. So it just shows you the qualities of Vidura. He was not an ordinary person. He was a very righteous person as well. He was a great well-wisher for everybody, and in particular for his dear brother Dhritarashtra, his elder brother, even though he was blind and he did not heed to any of his words, and he was driven out from his own house at the same time and condemned by the sons of Dhritarashtra. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for listening, and please forgive me for any mistakes I've made. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Vanchakalpa Tarvisha Kripasinibhavacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I have a question. Sorry. Is it okay to ask, or are we winding up?
You can ask. I'll see if I can answer it.
Yeah, no, it's just like you said the story that Krishna didn't touch the feet of Gandhari. I didn't understand. You said because she cursed, that is why he didn't touch, or?
No, because if he did touch the lotus, if he touched the feet of Gandhari, Gandhari would have to give her blessings to Krishna. So it was part of the Leela that he knew that the dynasty had to end, because the whole reason why the curse happened, because there was a boy who was holding a metal mace.
Yeah,
inside.
that story I know. Yeah.
Okay.
And the fish, that I know. So you mean to say he came to touch her feet, but because she cursed him, he didn't, because otherwise she would have to take it back and give him long life.
That's right. That's what I read. That's what I read. That he didn't touch her feet, because if she touched her feet, then she would have to
give him
curse
blessing
back again.
Yeah.
Blessing.
So it's very difficult to understand these passages of Krishna, because Krishna works in mysterious way.
Yes.
You guys are a master of all mystics, but there's always a story behind the story behind the story.
Yeah. And that story is also very beautiful. The iron thing and the I know, but I don't remember right now. And but thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll pass it over to Namrata Bhattaji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Mother Pranamo, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Beautifully explained, Prabhuji, and so many different leelas and stories. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj.
Glory to Srila Prabhupada. So, Prabhuji, for today's bhajan, it's myself singing Radha Krishna Pranamura. But before I sing, I have Shobhana Mataji who will be doing the English recitation. Prabhuji, I'm gonna check if Jyoti Mataji can share. If not, are you okay to share the screen, Prabhuji?
Yeah, I can do. What song was it? Oh,
It's
sorry.
Radha. No, it's okay, Prabhuji. Radha Krishna Pranamura.
Okay, sure. Okay, you can still see it?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Shobna Mataji, whenever you're ready. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much. Translation. The divine couple, Shri Shri Radha and Krishna, is my life and soul. In life or death, I have no other refuge but them. In a forest of small kadamba trees, on the bank of Yamuna, I will sit the divine couple on a throne made of bricks. Can you scroll up, Prabhu? Thank you. I will anoint their dark and fair forms with sandalwood paste scented with kuya, and I will fan them with a kamara whisk. Oh, when will I behold their moon-like faces? After stringing together garlands of multi-flowers, I will place them around their necks, and I will offer tambula scented with camphor to their lotus mouths. With the permission of all the Sakhis, headed by Lalita and Visakha, I will serve the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Narottama Dasa, the servant of the Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, longs for this service to the divine couple.
Thank you, Mataji, for a beautiful recitation. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Correct. Okay. Radha Krishna Prana Mora Jugala Kishora Radha Krishna Prana Mora Jugala Kishora Jivane Marane Gati Yaro Nahi Mora Radha Krishna Prana Mora Jugala Kishora Kalindri Kule Geli Kadambervala Ratna Bedira Upar Bosa Bodhu Jana Radha Krishna Pranamora Jugala Kishora Shama Gauri Ange Dipo Chandanera Gandha Chamara Dulabo Kabe Heri Mukha Chandra Radha Krishna Pranamura Jugala Kishora Gathiya Mala Tirumala Divodoragale Adare Tuliya Divo Karapura Tambule Radha Krishna Pranamura Jugala Kishora Lalita Vishakavadi Jata Sakhi Brinda Ananya Gaurivo Seva Charanaravinda Radha Krishna Pranamora Jugala Kishora Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dase Anudasa Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dase Anudasa Seva Abhilasha Kore Narottama Dasa Radha Krishna Pranamura Jugala Kishora Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you for the opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Namrata Mataji, for the recitation. And I've forgotten the girl's name for the English translation.
Shobna
Shobna Mataji. Thank you so much. Do you want to sort of show your video? I know you're very shy, so we can all say 3 Haribos to the devotees for singing. Namrata Mataji, are you feeling shy? Okay. 3 big Haribos to Namrata Mataji. Haribo, Haribo, Haribo.
Haribol.
Thank you very much, everyone, and have a lovely week ahead of you. Engage yourself in spiritual devotion, render service to all the Vaishnava devotees, come for Aarti, perform some Sankirtan as well, if it's possible. So many wonderful opportunities to always be engaged in Krishna's activities. There's no limit whatsoever. So thank you, everyone. Vanchakapatarubyascha kripasidnimevaccha patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavibho namo namah. Jai Shri Vaishnava ki jai.
Thanks a lot, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.